So you have said that this dossier is a witch hunt. Presumably, then, Michael Fallon is the first to be burnt at the stake.
So it seems. I think I should say I've sort of outed myself, actually, because no alleged victim of this peculiar thing that I've been accused of has actually come out. And it was so ridiculous, I decided to name myself in order to talk about this. Yes, it is unfortunate about Michael Fallon. I suspect over the next few days we may find out more details. Certainly the incident he's been accused of with Julia Hartley-Brewer, the journalist, I mean, she's saying, you know, it was nothing. So
we just talking to Andrew Piers and Kevin Maguire, they were suggesting that there are other things surrounding Sir Michael Fallon, and it's not necessarily the case that we know about that has caused him to step down. When it comes to your particular incident, it's a journalist who suggested that something inappropriate happened in a taxi.
Yes.
But you've got no recollection.
I've got no and no journalist has appeared, by the way. I mean, I've spoken to the press gallery in the House of Commons, and they're the biggest gossips you've ever seen, and they've never heard this story, so you would think the journalist would have said something.
So where does it come from, then?
I have no idea, and this is the very problem. Where has it come from? It's a strange mixture, this spreadsheet, because some of these things are stories that we know about. Others are stories that nobody's heard before, and there are no victims who've come forward. I mean, if I'd been a journalist, attacked or whatever I'm supposed to have done to him, you know, I'd have written a story about it. Wouldn't that have been a scoop? I mean, it's come out of nowhere. I truly have been racking my brains. I can't even think I must have been in a taxi with a journalist, but it means nothing to me. Yes, I mean, the problem is you're being tried by Twitter almost. There's this spreadsheet. We don't know who's prepared it. I first heard about it on Monday when I got phoned up by a Channel 4 journalist, and I thought they'd got it wrong. Then on the Tuesday, I actually saw an unredacted copy. In other words, I saw it with all the list of names. And suddenly I saw my name linked to this journalist, and it was so ludicrous, I decided, nobody else, I decided to go public on it, because we do need to have reform. We need to protect young, vulnerable workers in the House of Commons where there's an imbalance of power, young people working for an MP, and, you know, they're frightened of maybe complaining because it might affect their career. But equally, it's right, it's just to protect other people, MPs included, from unjust allegations. You can't do this trial by Twitter. We work all hours. You know, on a Monday we start at about 8:30, 9 o'clock with our office work. We go voting through till 10, 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. You can't leave the premises because if you're an MP, you've got to be available to vote. There are bars, but then,
A lot of drinking.
Some drink a lot, some don't. You can usually tell some of the fatter MPs maybe that, oh, that's a terrible thing for me to say, but you know what it's like. But, you know, there are bars at ITV. When I used to work for the BBC, there was the BBC Club. So every organisation is like that. I think whenever you've got a large group of people confined together for long hours, problems are going to arise.
Things that you meant as a joke suddenly seem weird.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the problem. We've got to be careful that while on the one hand we need to protect vulnerable people, on the other hand we don't want to get so politically correct that you daren't say anything and we've all become some sort of robots.
Do you agree with her? That was a strange thing to say.
I say lots of strange things, as the government whips will tell you.
And then ultimately then, can you see why you might land yourself in some trouble? I mean, without realising even.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very easy to do that. And I think it's rather sad, actually, that you know, we've got to be all monks or we've got to be...
But I don't think anyone's suggesting that, though, Michael. They're not saying that you have to be a monk. You can still be gregarious, you can still be fun, but it's about understanding when you are stepping over a line.
And the other thing, by the way, and I've written about it in The Guardian today, is in the House of Commons we don't have proper HR. You know, if you've got a dispute over your wages, you can go to an HR department. If you're physically abused, you must go to the police. But it's these grey thing in the middle, there's no one to go to apart from the government whips. And that's something that I've not experienced in the BBC, ITV or anywhere else where I've worked in the past. And we now do need some sort of independent body that can... Because not only does it need a body that can do the investigation, there's got to be justice to both parties involved, and justice has got to be seen to be done too. And unfortunately, the whips, they're not trained to be police officers, investigative people. And anyway, who's going to believe it when it's your own party investigating you?
And I guess the whips are there to keep the party in line, so they might not be the most sympathetic ear.
Well, that's true as well. Although I have to say, you know, having been a government and opposition whip for 7 years, it's not all like House of Cards. It's a pretty... we care for our flocks as well, as we call them. But no, the whip's office of any party is not the right organisation to look into this sort of accusation.